My husband's childhood sweetheart ran away after hitting someone with her car and came to my house. She collapsed into my husband's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Wah, I just got a government job. I can't go to jail. If I go to jail, my life will be ruined. To protect his sweetheart's promising future, my husband immediately ordered me to confess and go to jail in her place. I decisively refused this absurd request and, after the police arrived, pointed out Serafina's criminal act of hit and run. Serafina lost her secure job, was sentenced to 6 years in prison, and developed depression, self-harming until she was unrecognizable. My husband blamed it all on me. He went crazy, stabbing me repeatedly with a sharp dagger. It's all your fault. If you had taken the blame for Serafina, she wouldn't have been fired, and she wouldn't have cut her wrists. I'm going to make you suffer her pain 1,000 times over. In the end, I was stabbed to death by my husband. Reborn. When the police came to my door, I wisely extended my hands to be handcuffed. Officer, I was the one who hit her, and I was the one who fled the scene. Julian, I'm done for. I'm in big trouble. Serafina frantically burst into my house in the middle of the night, ignoring me sitting on the sofa, and plunged trembling into Julian's arms. Julian observed my expression, but his hand couldn't help but wrap around Serafina's waist as he asked her in a deep voice. What's wrong, Serafina? Don't panic. Tell me clearly what happened. Serafina sniffled, sobbing uncontrollably. Just now when I was driving home, I accidentally hit someone. I was so scared, I didn't even dare to get out of the car, and I immediately ran to you. Wow, what should I do? Hit and run is a prison sentence. I just got a government job. I can't go to jail. It'll ruin my whole life. Julian patted her back, gently soothing her. No, I'll think of a way for you. I won't let you go to jail. Serafina, think carefully. Who did you hit? Serafina shook her head in his arms like a kitten. I don't know, it was pitch black there in Xiaogo village. I only vaguely saw an elderly woman. The location Serafina mentioned, Xiaogo village, happened to be Julian's hometown. He knew it was remote, deserted, and pitch black, and even the surveillance cameras were outdated. And an elderly woman's eyesight was definitely poor. She might not be able to see Serafina's face clearly. In an instant, Julian's sharp gaze fell on me, and he coldly opened his lips to order me. Aurora, when the police come later, you will say that you were the one who hit her. The tone of voice left no room for disobedience, just like in my previous life. In my previous life, I decisively refused his absurd and unreasonable request. When the police arrived, I not only didn't take the blame, but I also enthusiastically helped the police identify Serafina as the culprit. Serafina was quickly taken back to the police station for investigation. And it wasn't long before her criminal acts were confirmed, and she was imprisoned. She lost the secure job she had just obtained and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. A criminal with a record could never dream of entering the government system again in this lifetime. Heartbroken, she developed depression and often cut her wrists in front of Julian. Julian's heart ached as if it was breaking, and he blamed it all on me. To vent his anger, he tightly tied me up and stabbed me again and again with a sharp dagger like a madman. It's all your fault. If you had taken the blame for Serafina back then, she wouldn't be so self-destructive now. You ruined her future, pushing her step by step onto a dead end. Do you know how much it hurts to cut your wrists? I'm going to make you feel her pain 1,000 times over. I bled to death and fell into a pool of blood. Thinking of this, I seemed to feel the pain of being stabbed by Julian again, and I clenched my fists tightly. Did you hear me? Tell the police that you were the one who hit her. Julian, worried that the old woman would recognize Serafina's clothes, gently coaxed her to take off her coat. He threw it roughly in my face. Change into this coat immediately. The metal zipper of the coat smacked against my face, the pain making my head buzz. I picked up the coat and threw it on the ground, refusing harshly. I won't wear it. I didn't hit the person, why should I confess? As soon as I said that, Serafina nestled into Julian's arms and began to wail again. I don't want to go to jail. I worked so hard to pass the civil service exam. If I go to prison, everything will be over. How will I ever face anyone again? Julian couldn't stand Serafina's tears. As soon as she cried, he would willingly go through fire and water for her. Let alone just sacrifice me to take her place in prison. He picked up the coat from the floor, rushed over, pinned me down on the sofa, and forcibly stripped off my clothes. Serafina has a bright future ahead of her. She can't go to jail. And you're just a worthless housewife. What does it matter if you spend a few years in prison? Being able to help Serafina avoid this disaster is your good fortune. With that, my hands and feet were firmly held down by him, and he turned and called out to Serafina. Serafina, hurry. Put the coat on her. I struggled violently, my legs kicking wildly in the air, accidentally knocking Serafina's hand away. The next second, a stinging slap landed on my face, which quickly became red and swollen. Julian's eyes were filled with anger. Behave yourself and don't move. If you don't listen obediently and cause Serafina to be arrested by the police, I will definitely kill you. The murderous intent overflowing in his eyes reminded me of the scene where he stabbed me to death in my previous life, and I instantly lost all strength and resistance. Like a fish waiting to be slaughtered, I was manipulated and put into the coat. Serafina's coat on me, plus the fact that I have a similar hairstyle to hers, others definitely won't be able to tell us apart. Julian smiled at Serafina with satisfaction. Serafina, don't worry, the surveillance cameras there won't capture your face. When the police and the old woman see the clothes on Aurora, they will definitely think she's the culprit and won't suspect you. Julian was right. Serafina's car that she used to commit the hit and run was borrowed from Julian, and the police traced the license plate to our house, so the first suspects were me and Julian. And I'm wearing clothes that are exactly the same as the old woman described, so naturally I'm the runaway driver. I craned my neck and glared at them. I won't take the blame for Serafina. When the police come, I'll tell them that you are the real hit-and-run driver. With today's technology, the police will definitely find the real culprit. Both of you will have to go to jail. Julian was indeed provoked by me, and he elbowed me in the jaw, the pain making my head spin, and I leaned back on the sofa. He viciously grabbed my neck, his fingers tightening little by little, squeezing my throat shut, not allowing any air to circulate. I told you, if you dare to cause Serafina to go to jail, I will definitely kill you. Do you want to die right now? The rationality in my brain began to crumble, and I rolled my eyes at the brink of death. Gradually, I couldn't breathe. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. The police were here. Serafina, startled like a frightened bird, rushed over to pry Julian's hand off my neck. What do we do? The police are here, will they find out? I took deep breaths of the sweet air, and after 10 seconds or so, finally regained my composure, obediently buttoning up my coat. I promise you, I'll take the blame for Serafina. Julian's fierce gaze held a hint of disbelief, warning me. You better not play any tricks on me, I'm capable of anything. With that, he stood up, patted Serafina's trembling hand, and opened the door to let the police in. The two officers had faint anger and suspicion in their eyes. Why did it take so long to open the door? Sorry, officers, we were sleeping in the room, sound asleep. Julian continued to smile ingratiatingly. Is there something wrong so late at night? The police officers squeezed into the house, took out the photo of the hit-and-run vehicle from their files, and said sternly, Is this car yours? Who was driving it an hour ago? Serafina kept taking deep breaths, but her body trembled like a sieve, and her face was deathly pale. Julian answered, It's my car. My wife just drove it home. He slowly turned around, his gaze falling on me. Following his gaze, the police knew that I was the wife he mentioned. The two police officers looked at each other and nodded knowingly. They took out another surveillance photo and handed it to Julian for identification. Take a look, is this person in the photo your wife? The face in the photo was obscured by the sun visor inside the car, only showing the upper body clothing and a little bit of hairstyle. The police, seeing that my clothing was exactly the same as in the photo, had already confirmed that I was the culprit, but still followed protocol and asked a few questions. Julian pointed at the photo in shock, then at me on the sofa. This is my wife, officers. Look, the clothes she's wearing are the same as in the photo. What's going on so late at night? The burly officer Miller walked up to me and spoke with a great deal of pressure. An hour ago, there was a hit-and-run accident at the entrance of Xiaogo village. A 70-year-old man was seriously injured and taken to the hospital for emergency treatment. Is this case related to you? Julian and Serafina's nervous eyes were on me. With a strong warning. I can't say anything rash, or Julian will kill me. I met Officer Miller's judging gaze, and cleverly held out my hands for the police to put on the handcuffs. Officer, I hit the person, I committed the hit and run. Officer Miller narrowed his eyes in surprise. According to the logic of a typical perpetrator, running away immediately after hitting someone clearly meant they were unwilling to take responsibility, and were taking a chance. But now I was sitting on the sofa without the slightest hint of tension, not even struggling or resisting, and so readily admitting the crime. It was really a bit too extraordinary. Officer Miller suspiciously scanned the house, his sharp gaze settling on Serafina standing in the corner. He pointed at her and asked Julian, "Aurora is your wife? Then who is this? Why is she in your house so late at night?" The named Serafina trembled violently again, staring at Julian for help. Julian reacted quickly and nodded to Officer Miller, explaining, "She's a distant cousin of mine. She came to the city to work and has nowhere to live, so she's staying with us temporarily." Officer Miller took notes quickly on his pad, glanced at Serafina, and asked, "Do you know how to drive?" Serafina swallowed with difficulty and shook her head, answering hoarsely, "No, I don't. I don't know how." Serafina was extremely guilty. Her fingers kneaded the hem of her clothes uncontrollably, and every pore on her body was screaming with panic. Such unusual behavior, of course, did not escape the eyes of the police. Officer Miller's eyebrows lowered even more, and his gaze at Serafina became even sharper. Julian chuckled and stood in front of Serafina, blocking her from view. "Officer Miller, please excuse her. My cousin comes from the countryside. She's never seen a police officer before, so it's inevitable that she's a little nervous. How would she know how to drive? She doesn't even have a driver's license. Kids from the countryside need to work for several more years before they have the money to learn to drive." Officer Miller hummed in agreement, and ordered the police officer next to him to check Serafina's information in the system. "Captain Miller, she doesn't have a driver's license, so she shouldn't be able to drive." Officer Miller's doubts were finally dispelled. He looked at me again, took out the picture of the injured elderly woman, and questioned me angrily. "Look at this. Look at what you've done to her." The old woman waited in the freezing wilderness for almost half an hour before a kind person took her to the hospital. Now she's lying in the hospital unconscious, and we don't know if she can be saved. "And you didn't even call for an ambulance before running away?" I stared at the bloody old woman in the photo, a smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Julian caught my smile, rushed in front of me in a rage, and slapped me across the face. "Aurora, you dare to smile? How can you be so vicious? You hit someone and ran away? What if that old woman dies because of you? Even if you give your life, it won't be enough." Seeing that she had cleared her name, Serafina immediately jumped into character, criticizing me from the moral high ground. "Sister-in-law, how can you be so cruel? Fleeing the scene of an accident can get you at least 3 years in prison. And if that old woman dies because you hit her, it's 7 years minimum. You better pray that old woman wasn't killed by you." Serafina knew a little too much. An uneducated girl from the countryside without a driver's license, knowing traffic crime penalties so well was a bit abnormal. However, the chaotic atmosphere at this time prevented the police from noticing this point. They identified me as the culprit, handcuffed me, and were about to take me back to the police station. Julian's phone rang at just the right moment. He cursed into the phone. "Do you believe I'll beat you scammers to death? It's your mother who got hit by a car, and is being rescued in the hospital. Your whole family got hit by a car. If you dare to curse my mother again, I'll have the police raid your scam den right away. I have 2 police officers standing right next to me." Officer Miller's hand on my shoulder suddenly loosened, and he incredulously took out the picture of the injured old woman, and handed it to Julian. "Mr. Julian, take a look. Could things really be this coincidental?" Julian stared at the bloody image, couldn't help but gag, tears in his eyes, and roared, "My mother! How could it be my mother?" Serafina snatched the photo in shock, her mouth agape, unable to say a word after seeing that she had indeed hit Julian's mother. Julian's eyes held a look that was hard to tell if it was shock or rage. He hadn't even had time to change out of his pajamas, grabbing his slippers at the door and rushing to the hospital. Serafina knew her sins were deep, but Julian hadn't pointed her out or yelled at her in this situation. which meant he cared for her enough. She followed Julian and ran out of the house. Officer Miller furrowed his brow and glared at me. Look at what you've done. You hit your mother-in-law. You've brought this on yourself. If you had just taken one more look after getting out of the car, she might not be unconscious now. Anyone would be furious with me if they were in this situation. No wonder Officer Miller gave me a dressing down. Finally, he shook his head helplessly, sighed, and grabbed my shoulder. Let's go back to the police station with us. Julian and Serafina rushed to the hospital anxiously, grabbing the sleeve of a random doctor. Where's my mom? Where's my mom? Take me to see my mom. His agitated appearance frightened the doctor. Besides, the doctor wasn't even his mother's attending physician, so he struggled to pull his hand away in displeasure. I have to rush to a child's surgery, let go of me. Julian refused to let go, roaring at the doctor. Tell me where my mom is. Tell me now. The doctor stretched his body and shouted for help. Call security. This man is crazy. Get him out of here. Serafina, weeping, pulled Julian off the doctor, patting his chest to calm him down. Julian, don't worry, calm down. Let's go to the nurse's station and ask the nurse on duty. Julian, in his haste, threw Serafina to the ground, pointing at her nose and scolding her. Calm down? How can I calm down? It's bad enough that you hit my mom. But how could you not even call an ambulance for her? Officer Miller said my mom was lying in the freezing cold, bleeding all over, for half an hour. She was almost killed by you. And you want me to calm down? Serafina crawled up and hugged Julian's leg. I'm sorry. I was really too scared at the time. That's why I wanted to run away. If I had known the person I hit was Auntie, I would have sent her to the hospital immediately. But nothing she said mattered now. The most important thing was to find Julian's mother and understand her injuries. Their pushing and shoving in the hospital quickly attracted the attention of the nurses. The head nurse warned them sternly. This is a hospital, not a place for you to make a scene. If you want to cause trouble, go outside. Julian hurriedly grabbed the head nurse, hoping she could give him an answer. Nurse, where's my mom? Where's my mom? Afraid that the nurse wouldn't understand his description, he quickly added. Do you have a patient here who was injured in a car accident? An elderly woman in her 70s, sent from Xiaogo village. Julian's eyes were full of eagerness, his heart in his throat, afraid the nurse would say that she had already died. The nurse, seeing Julian's anxious face, didn't bother arguing with him, and said somewhat impatiently, Yes, she's being rescued in the emergency room on the right up ahead. Ah, the old woman is so pitiful, lying in the wilderness for half an hour, almost bleeding to death. I don't know if they can save her. Julian glared back at Serafina, and quickly ran towards the emergency room, looking at the red light flashing above the emergency room. He was so anxious he punched the wall hard. After more than 10 minutes, the emergency room door was hastily opened, and Julian immediately went up to ask the doctor, Doctor, how's my mother doing? Is she all right? The doctor didn't have time to take off his mask, and his tightly furrowed brows told Julian that the situation was not optimistic. Are you a family member? This is what happened. The patient's condition is very critical right now. She's in shock due to excessive blood loss, but our hospital's blood bank is running low, and we don't have time to get the matching blood type from a neighboring city. You can only launch your own search to find blood donation volunteers. Serafina wanted to atone for her sins, and scrambled up from the ground, rolling up her sleeves. Doctor, I'll donate blood for the auntie. What's your blood type? The patient's blood type is the extremely rare Rh negative. If we can't find a matching blood type in time, I'm afraid. So the situation is extremely urgent. The patient can't hold on much longer. We need it as soon as possible. Julian's lips trembled. I inherited my mother's negative blood type, take mine. The doctor helplessly shook his head and explained. Direct relatives can't donate blood. Every word the doctor said felt like a knife stabbing Julian's heart. He had depended on his mother since he was a child. She barely managed to raise him alone, and she was the most important person in his life. He couldn't bear it, and staggered against the wall. Serafina wanted to atone for her sins, and nodded desperately, taking the lead and posting an urgent notice on her social media, pleading for relatives and friends who met the blood donation requirements to lend a helping hand. Julian, who immediately reacted, also followed suit by posting a help request on his social media, and even bought local video traffic, offering a high price to implore volunteers to donate blood. But Rh-negative blood was really too rare. Even though Julian offered tens of thousands of yuan as a reward, he couldn't even find one eligible volunteer. Watching the time pass little by little, his mother's breathing in the emergency room grew weaker and weaker, and his back became more and more stooped. Serafina grabbed her disheveled hair and kept crying, apologizing to Julian. "I'm sorry, Julian, I really didn't mean to. I've already posted dozens of posts, and there isn't even one suitable person. Why don't we look in a neighboring city? We'll take the highway to save time." Julian was silent in despair, and did not adopt Serafina's suggestion. It's now the middle of the night, and they can't even find someone locally. What hope is there of finding someone in a neighboring city and getting the blood back in time? A moment later, his eyes suddenly lit up. Aurora. Aurora is also Rh-negative. I had been in the detention center for several hours. Facing the repetitive questions from the police officers, I was getting annoyed. I raised my heavy eyelids to look at the clock on the wall, calculating in my mind that it was almost time. Julian wouldn't be so stupid as to not remember, after all this time, that his wife, like him, has Rh-negative blood. Officer Miller, noticing my lazy expression, couldn't help but slam his hand on the table. "You better watch your attitude. I'm asking you one more time. How did you run someone over?" I swung my legs, looking impatient. "Officer, can't we do this tomorrow? I'm really tired now." Officer Miller flew into a rage and rushed to my side, his thick voice extremely serious. "Are you the only one who's tired? We have to deal with this serious incident in the middle of the night, and your husband is at the hospital, keeping vigil over your mother-in-law's surgery, worrying about her. You think we aren't tired? Do you even realize how serious your mistake is?" His roar startled me, and my drowsiness dissipated a lot. I yawned and replied, I know. I was just driving on the road, and suddenly she rushed out from the side of the intersection. I didn't see her at all, and I just knocked her flying." Officer Miller meticulously asked, "What was your speed at the time?" I lowered my head to think for a moment, then firmly replied, 60 at most. Officer Miller flared up, pointing his finger at my nose and berating, "You're lying. According to our on-site investigation, your driving speed was at least 100, which is why your mother-in-law was hit so badly." Looking at the official data that Officer Miller slammed in front of me, I still insisted, "I'm not lying, it was 60. Officer Miller wanted to argue with me, but he was interrupted by the police officer on duty outside. "Captain Miller, Aurora's husband Julian is here." Officer Miller had to stop the interrogation, and took me out to meet Julian. As soon as Julian saw me, he rushed to grab my hand, but Officer Miller harshly blocked him. "Mr. Julian, please control your emotions. There are still many doubts in the case, and we are investigating." Julian's face turned red with anxiety. "Officer Miller, my mother is in critical condition in the hospital and urgently needs Rh-negative blood. I have to take Aurora to donate blood to her immediately." Officer Miller naturally didn't believe it. He thought Julian was trying to use this method to get me out, and immediately said righteously and sternly, "Mr. Julian, do you think I've been a police officer for nothing all these years? I know she's your wife and you have feelings for her, but you don't have to use such a clumsy excuse to bail her out. It's all in vain. Once her crime is confirmed, it won't matter if she escapes to the ends of the earth." The more anxious Julian became, the more he couldn't speak, so Serafina quickly spoke for him. "Officer, we're really not lying. The aunt is in the operating room and needs Aurora to give her a blood transfusion. She can't hold on much longer." Officer Miller lowered his eyelids and scratched his chin, starting to believe it a little. He turned around, about to ask me if I really had Rh-negative blood, but I stopped him. I grabbed his strong arm in panic, my eyes filled with a desire to survive. "Officer Miller, Julian definitely wants to get revenge on me. If you let me leave the police station with him, he'll kill me right away." Officer Miller, upon hearing that, thought that was terrible. How could he hand me over to my enemy? He quickly had the on-duty police officer take me back to the interrogation room, not letting Julian get within half a step of me. "Mr. Julian, I'm warning you. Aurora's crimes need to be decided by the law, The police station is not a place for you to do as you please. Please leave immediately, otherwise we will take forceful measures against you for creating a disturbance. Julian stamped his foot angrily and pounded his thigh, saying, "You go check Aurora's file, she really has Rh-negative blood." The first thing that happened when I was brought back to the police station was a simple physical examination. And the coroner did indeed have a file stating that I had Rh-negative blood. Julian took out the request for help information he had posted on his phone, as well as the critical condition notices issued by the hospital. "Officer Miller, can you believe me now? My mother is really waiting for a life-saving blood transfusion in the hospital." Officer Miller quickly checked the source of the information, confirmed it was correct, and then said seriously, "But blood donation also requires the consent of the person concerned. You have to ask Aurora if she agrees." I grinned and sneered at Julian. "I don't want to. Actually, I'm not a cold-blooded and heartless person. In my previous life, although I refused Julian's request to take the blame, after learning that the injured person was my mother-in-law, I rushed to the hospital to donate blood to her. I, who am usually afraid of even 4 drips, didn't even blink when I saw the thick needle for drawing blood. But after my mother-in-law received my blood, knowing that I hadn't taken the blame for Serafina, she cursed at me. "Our Zhou family is so unlucky to have a vicious daughter-in-law like you. Serafina had such a bright future, and you ruined it all. How can you still have the face to live? If I were you, I would have killed myself." She even silently closed the door when Julian stabbed me with a knife, without stopping his violence. And after I died, she helped him dispose of my body and cover up his crime. So this time, no matter what, I will never donate blood to that disgusting old woman. Officer Miller was very disgusted with me, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't force me. Even though he despised my behavior, I still had basic human rights. If Aurora doesn't want to, I'm afraid there's really nothing we can do. Serafina had finally found an opportunity to redeem herself, so of course she wouldn't let it disappear. She rushed forward, trying to persuade me with emotion and reason. "Sister Aurora, she's your mother-in-law, and besides you were the one who hit her. Shouldn't you make some amends for your mistake? This is the only way for you to wash away your sins. People, if they lie for too long, they will even deceive themselves." I stared at her blinking eyes and gritted my teeth to speak. "Sister Aurora, how affectionate. Are you and I that familiar?" Seeing that I would not agree even if I died, Julian thought I was sulking because he forced me to take the blame for Serafina. But now that his mother's life was in danger, he had to make the final choice. "Officer Miller, actually my mom wasn't hit by Aurora, she was hit by Serafina. I'm formally reporting that Serafina was driving under the influence and without a license, and she was the one who fled the scene." Officer Miller suddenly turned cold. "Mr. Julian, you are responsible for what you say. Whether what you said is true or false, it already constitutes obstruction of justice." Julian couldn't care about anything else. He just wanted to get me out so I could donate blood to his mother. "I guarantee what I said is true." Officer Miller pointed out the suspicious point. "But we clearly saw Aurora wearing the perpetrator's clothes. I made her change into them. Officer Miller, hurry and release Aurora. My mom really can't wait any longer." Upon hearing Julian sell her out, Serafina immediately became hysterical. Her shrill screams echoed throughout the silent police station in the early morning. "It wasn't me. You all saw it, the clothes are on Aurora, she's the one who hit the person. I can't even drive, I don't even have a driver's license, how could I drive a car?" Enraged, she lunged at Julian, gritting her teeth. "Julian, you can't just pin the blame on me so Aurora can donate blood to your mom." After her sharp fingernails scratched several bloody marks on Julian's face, his anger reached a boiling point. He grabbed her wrist and threw her to the ground. "Officer Miller, I have a dashcam in my car that recorded Serafina driving without a license. Moreover, she drank a lot of alcohol tonight. There's definitely still alcohol in her system." Officer Miller raised his thick eyebrows and immediately summoned the on-duty police officer. "Immediately take Serafina for an alcohol test." 10 minutes later, the on-duty police officer reported, "Captain Miller, based on the current blood alcohol content, we can deduce that Serafina was driving under the influence at the time of the incident." It all made sense. Serafina was speeding at 100 kilometers per hour on the dirt road at the edge of the village because she was drunk, and coupled with driving without a license, she had no choice but to flee the scene. Exposed for her crime, Serafina instantly became enraged and leaped at Julian, attacking him wildly. "Julian, you're a beast. Didn't you promise me you wouldn't let me go to jail? You clearly said that after Aurora went to prison, you'd find a reason to divorce her and be with me. You betrayed me. Just for your dying mother, you betrayed me like this. She's almost dead. How could you betray me?" Serafina cried and screamed heart-wrenchingly, vomiting on Julian's body. Julian pushed her away in disgust. Hearing her curse his mother, he became even more enraged. "Who do you think you are to curse my mom? I haven't even settled accounts with you for hitting my mom like this." The police officers, who were slow to react, couldn't even restrain him. They saw him grab Serafina's hair and desperately slam her head against the ground. Just 2 slams created 2 large lumps of blood, and a large chunk of hair was pulled out, revealing a terrifying patch of blood on her scalp. Julian and Serafina were dragged away by the police officers, and Officer Miller sternly stopped the farce. "Enough. What do you think this place is? Do you all want to end up in jail?" Officer Miller frowned and called over a female police officer, instructing her to apply medicine to Serafina. Then he turned his straight back to me and asked, "Why did you say you were the one who committed the hit and run? Do you know that you are misleading the police? You are legally responsible for this." I squeezed out 2 tears and wailed loudly, "Officer Miller, please, you must help me. I was coerced by Julian. If I didn't do as he said, he would kill me." Julian bit his lip until it bled. "No, I didn't coerce her. She did it willingly. Officer Miller, please return my phone. There are video and audio recordings of Julian coercing me on my phone." Officer Miller took my phone out of a file bag. I had prepared for this. I deliberately provoked Julian, making him attack me and threaten me with harsh words. "Officer Miller, before you came to my house, Julian strangled me, forcing me to agree to him. I really had no choice. Spending a few years in prison is better than being killed by him. Now that the truth is revealed, please give me justice." Officer Miller nodded heavily. "Since you were coerced, it's understandable. Officer Cole, Officer Davis, take Julian and Serafina to the interrogation room immediately. I want to interrogate them overnight." Seeing the conclusive evidence, Julian simply stopped trying to argue. He just knelt down on both knees in front of me, his eyes brimming with tears. "I accept going to prison. Aurora, I have now restored your innocence and didn't really let you go to jail. Can you please be magnanimous and donate blood to save my mother's life?" As Julian spoke, he burst into tears. I understood how important his mother was to him. But this wasn't something that could be brushed aside with a casual, "Be magnanimous." This life, I escaped this disaster by my own efforts. The pain of the previous life was unforgettable. I wasn't a saint. I couldn't forgive. Julian kept kowtowing to me, tears falling to the ground with each thud of his forehead. "Please, please." I hardened my heart and said without changing my expression, "I'm sorry, I don't want to donate blood. You should find someone else." Julian crawled towards me on his knees, helplessly grabbing my pant leg, looking pathetic. "At least you've called her mom for so many years. You're practically her daughter. Don't be so heartless, okay? Practically her daughter." Hearing that phrase at this moment, I only felt sarcasm. During the years I was married to Julian, I heard nothing but curses from her every day. Who would beat and scold their practically daughter for no reason? Who would encourage their son to cheat? She didn't deserve it at all. A rapid phone ring sounded. It was Julian's phone. He saw the number on the screen and hurriedly answered the phone while kneeling. "Hello. How's my mom?" "The rescue failed." "How could the rescue fail? Why couldn't you wait for me? I could have begged Aurora to go back to the hospital to donate blood." The weak voice on the other end of the phone echoed in the police station. "We're sorry, Mr. Julian. Please accept our condolences." "Condolences? I'll give you condolences." Julian smashed his phone into pieces, catching Serafina's eyes burning with naked murderous intent. Despite being held by 2 policemen, he desperately kicked his legs in midair towards Serafina's direction. "Serafina, you killed my mom. You murderer, you wait for me. When you get out of prison, I will personally kill you to avenge my mom. Suddenly, he trembled as if he had been shot and lost consciousness. The forensic doctor diagnosed. His emotions were too agitated, and he suddenly had a stroke. Officer Miller decisively raised his hand. Take them all down. Treat the injured, and treat the sick. After a whole night of drama, I finally walked out of the police station feeling light. Later, I personally attended Julian and Serafina's sentencing hearing. Serafina was sentenced to 10 years in prison for hit and run resulting in death. Julian was sentenced to 6 years in prison for intentional injury and intimidation. However, Julian probably wouldn't be able to avenge his mother after Serafina was released from prison. Because of that stroke, half of his body was paralyzed. After getting the verdict, I left the courthouse and found that the originally gloomy sky was turning blue. I smiled contentedly, and my mood turned blue little by little as well. I was even more confident that the sky of my future life would be azure blue.